Hey everybody, how's it going? Um, Today I wanted to do a video on some things I've ordered and bought to add to my medical preps. Uh, I figured I'd go over these with you guys. First and foremost, bandaging supplies are going to be important. Um, and I watch other channels from time to time. I listen to quite a few different podcasts. One of the channels that I watch is the Patriot Nurse, and she said something in one of her recent videos that I felt was important enough to share with you guys. And that is that when it comes to stocking up on medical supplies, particularly bandages, if you think you have enough, you need more. And the reasoning behind this, and I would have to agree with her, as somebody that's worked in the medical field in the past, and also as somebody that's had experience caring for somebody that had some uh, serious wounds that needed caring for a long period of time, you don't think about it, but bandages are something you go through really quickly, far more quickly than you would believe. So if you have what you think is a large supply of bandages, and then you have one person with a serious wound, that one person can burn through a lot of your supplies very quickly. To that end, I try to stock up on a lot of the basics. Uh, ABD pads, abdominal pads, 4x4, 2x2 gauzes, rolled gauze, and of course you can get these at your local drugstores and stuff, but that is typically one of the more expensive places to buy it. And the dollar store is good for getting some things, but you also have to break it down as to the cost per item. For example, you might be able to get a bottle of say Tylenol or Tylenol off off brand, the store brand. You might be able to get a bottle of 200 and something tablets for $1 to $1.50 at Walmart. Uh, at a place like the Dollar Tree or someplace like that, you can find an acetaminophen uh, tablet for $1, but you might only have 20 tablets in that bottle. If you're not careful, you'll end up paying far more at the dollar store than you would at other places. It's best to shop around. Now, there's some things you can get at places like Dollar Tree where you get a really good deal. And then there's times that you actually end up paying more for it. uh, it you really need to break down the price based on the quantity or volume of what you're getting. With Tylenol, the number of tablets, 25 to 100, or maybe even 50 tablets for $1 at Dollar Tree, and you can get 200 or more for $1.50 at Walmart. Walmart's the better deal. Uh, the same thing goes with ointments and creams. Yeah, you might spend $2 or $3 for a 4 or 5 ounce tube at Walmart, and you might be able to get a tube at the dollar store for $1. But how many ounces is in that tube? Is it a half ounce, 1 ounce tube? You really need to look at that. Don't just assume the size of the tube or the size of the bottle being the same as what you would get at a big box store or a drugstore that is going to hold the same amount. Oftentimes, those packages are oversized and you get smaller amounts in them. A box of Band-Aids is another good example. You can get a box of Band-Aids at the dollar store for $1, like everything else. But there's typically only about 10, maybe 20 at the most in a box. and you can get a larger box that has more in it for not much more money if you shop around. So just bear in mind that dollar stores are not always the best deal. Sometimes they can be, but you really need to look at the price compared to the quantity or the amount. You know, you really need to break that down. Anyway, one of the things that I've bought to add to my preps recently is these are extra absorbent abdominal pads, ABD pads. Now I ordered these in bulk. There's 4 boxes of 25, so there's 100 pads here for like $20. I spent somewhere around $15 to $20 for this. I don't remember exactly, but I believe it was about 21. All right, at the store, it's a Walmart or a drugstore, you might spend $15 to $20 for one box. So there's advantages to going online and buying in bulk. I've also ordered rolled gauze the same way. I've ordered the 4x4 and the 2x2 gauze pads the same way. Now, you have to be careful also that the gauze pads, like on Amazon, you got the sterile pads that are individually wrapped, and then you have what they call surgical sponges, which are thinner, they're not as many layers, they're all in one package, not individually packaged. They're really cheap compared to the 4x4 or the 2x2 sterile that's individually packaged. They're really cheap, but they're not the same. So you need to pay attention to what you're buying. Another thing I ordered is Germ Shield antimicrobial wound gel. Now this is a silver-based ointment that kills bacteria. I bought some of these, and this is the second time I've ordered some of these, as opposed to triple antibiotic ointment, for the simple reason that a lot of bacteria these days is becoming resistant to antibiotics. Overuse of antibiotics is leading to this this antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So I wanted something in my preps to kind of mitigate that. And I don't remember, I think this was like $6 for 3 half-ounce tubes. So that's not a bad deal there. You can still use your triple antibiotic ointment if you want. I have some, but I try to use it sparingly, and I wanted to make sure I had something else on hand that would work in a similar function. This fit that bill, that met the needs. A couple of other things I bought. You don't need a ton of these. It's not like bandages where you need a ton of these. But I have a couple of them already, and I wanted to get a couple more. SAM splints. Now these are padded aluminum splints that are malleable. You can shape it to your arm, your leg, your foot, whatever you need. And working with an ACE bandage, this works really well for splinting and stabilizing fractures, breaks, strains, whatever. I got 2 of those, and those were $12 a piece. In that same line, SAM splints for your fingers or toes, anything like that. These are smaller ones that can work for either your fingers or your toes. And I got a pack of 5 for $6. Now, like I said, you don't need a lot of splints. It's not likely you'll need a ton of them, but I wanted to have a few on hand, not many. Those 2 large ones, I've already got a couple of large ones, and then I didn't have any of the smaller ones, so I ordered some of those. So I think that's probably pretty good for what I need. I don't expect to need any more than that, because splints are fairly easily improvised. You know, a couple of sticks, a piece of wood, any kind of rigid material in an ace bandage will make a splint. But these work really well, and they can be molded to fit wherever you need them to fit. You can even cut them if necessary. You can cut them with trauma shears. They're not hard to cut at all. A couple of other things I've got. I don't have them right here, but anti-diarrheal tablets or liquid or something like that is very, very critical. It's probably one of the more overlooked items in preps, but if you go into a third world country, the majority of deaths caused in emergency situations, disaster scenarios, or even in third world countries is diarrhea and dehydration from that. So anti-diarrheals are really, really important. So make sure you have plenty of those stocked up. In that same line, I bought a couple of bottles of electrolyte solution. Now, this stuff only has like a 2-year shelf life if you go by the date. I haven't really looked into the storage life beyond that. And it's not real important, because if you have the basic materials, water, salt, sugar, you can actually make your own electrolyte solution. But this is a ready-made flavored electrolyte solution ready to go. And for $3.50 a bottle, it's not that bad. It's a good idea to add a little bit of that to your preps as well. Next, in line with the bandages, Israeli bandages. I love these things. These are vacuum sealed trauma wound dressings, 6-inch hemorrhage control bandage. It's essentially a large padded bandage on an ace bandage. That actually might be another one of my deliveries right there. Anyway, so these were, depending on where you get them, they can cost anywhere from $7 to $12 a piece. Yep, I believe that's for me. Hang on, guys, I'll be back. Alright, yeah, that was a, sorry about that, guys. That was a delivery, some ammo can labels that I'd ordered. But anyway, where was I? Israeli bandages. I love these things. They're really good for bleed control, and this is definitely a good item to have in your preps. Now, these do get a little pricey at times. Like I said, that you can spend anywhere from $7 to $10 depending on where you buy them from. These were a little on the higher side because of what was in stock at the time that I ordered them. But I had ordered 3 of them, added to probably the 15 or so that I already have. I'm one of these guys, you can never have too many bandages. Alright, next up was HyFin chest seals. Now, these are occlusive dressings for open chest wounds by North American Rescue. I'm not really going to go into details on how you use these. With some of the items that I prep, it's really important to understand how and when to use certain items. You don't use them for just anything. Some of them have very specific situations that they would be used in. This is one of those items. This would be for sealing up a chest wound that penetrates into the inner cavity that could result in a collapsed lung or something like that. This would actually allow it to take the pressure off. But you have to know what you're looking at, what you're dealing with, and how to use things like this. But I ordered a couple of these. I want to get a few more of those. But that's something that would be used, as I'm sure a lot of you know, to stabilize somebody till they can be transported to more advanced care. In that line, something else that I got that I want to talk about, quick clotting gauze. Now, this is one of those things that I've been seeing a lot of these. Making another delivery. He's being noisy too. Over the past couple of years, I've been seeing a lot of these pop up in first aid kits at Walmart. They're available at Academy Sports and other sporting goods stores and the like. Anywhere they sell shooting supplies, you're likely to find stuff like this. And the two brands that you tend to find are either QuikClot or something called Celox. Now, there's other brands, there's other hemostatic agents and bandages that can be purchased. But the two that you're most likely to come across would be one of these two, the QuikClot or the Celox. Now, I've seen the Celox in both granular form and in gauze form. The QuikClot, to my knowledge, I've only seen in gauze. I don't recall ever seeing it in a granular form. And this is one of those things that has a very specific and limited use. And let me preface that by saying that there is very rarely any kind of bleeding that can't be stopped either through direct or proximal pressure to the wound or the use of a tourniquet. One of those three techniques will resolve pretty much any bleeding that you might come across. These materials here were originally developed for situations where there was massive bleeding, but in an environment where more advanced medical care was either unavailable or might be unavailable for an extended period of time. That being said, I've heard from countless times that doctors and nurses despise the use of granules for the simple reason that when they get a patient in where the granules have been used to clot a wound, stop the bleeding, they have to go in there and debride, remove the granules and clean it and scrub it good to remove all of that before they can even begin to treat the wound. That's a major drawback to the granules. And these usually come in the little first aid kits you get at Walmart. I've seen them in that a lot. Now this stuff will work even on people that are on heparin, Coumadin, or warfarin, blood thinners, which that's a good thing, but you also have to understand that this causes complications when it comes to actually treating the wound later on. The doctors and nurses, it causes problems for them. This is a major headache for them. That's why in my personal opinion, I tend to prefer the QuikClot gauze. The gauze you can actually place on the wound or in the wound. Like if you have a deep puncture wound, you can actually pack the gauze inside the wound. It will help clot the blood so that it'll stop the bleeding. But when it comes time for a doctor or somebody to actually work on the wound and treat the person, they don't have to sit there and scrub and clean and debride. They can just remove it and go to work. There's also a difference in how these two products work. This one, the Celox, works completely different than the QuikClot. There's two different mechanisms that work here. The Celox is also typically far more expensive than the QuikClot gauze. The Celox gauze that I've seen is almost usually twice the price of one of the QuikClots. So that's something to bear in mind. But this is definitely something I want to have in my kit, my preps. But again, it's one of those things you have to know when and how to use it, because it's one of those things that you don't have to use it on everything. Not every wound requires a tourniquet. Not every wound requires a hemostatic agent. In fact, I saw a video of Antifa last year where somebody got injured in the leg. I can't remember if they were shot or cut, but somebody immediately tried to put a tourniquet on it. That's not something you would want to do. Tourniquets have a very specific use. They're a last line resort to treating a bleeding wound. And not every wound requires a tourniquet. Not every wound requires a hemostatic agent. You might laugh, but I've known some people that thought that a cut on the forehead that was bleeding profusely, somebody I knew once upon a time actually suggested putting a tourniquet on somebody's neck. Don't be one of those people. Please do not be one of those people. And if you are one of those people, please leave me alone no matter how bad I'm bleeding. Please do not offer me any assistance. It may sound ridiculous and absurd, and it is, but there are actually people out there that think that way. A tourniquet should not be your initial go-to. All right, that pretty much covers everything I've got in this box that I've added right now. Like I said, I've ordered rolled gauze and bulk packs of 24, which was far cheaper than buying it individually at the dollar store or the drugstore. There's a lot of different options, and everything in this pack that I've showed you today, everything in this pack was actually eligible for purchase through an FSA or an HSA account. So if you have health insurance that offers you a flexible spending account or a health savings account, all of this stuff qualified for that. Not for reimbursement, but for direct payment. In fact, I ordered all of this stuff, splints, the bandages, the gauze pads, the electrolytes, the QuikClot was even paid for by the HSA. The only thing, I can't remember if the chest seals were paid for by the HSA. I don't think they were. I do have to step back on that one. I think I had to pay cash for these because these weren't covered. But everything else was. Even the Israeli bandages, the splints. So all of that was covered by an HSA. So if you're low on cash but have sufficient money in your HSA or FSA, you can buy some of this stuff that way. Now, do not deplete your savings account to buy preps, because you never know when you might have a medical emergency where you need to pay for treatment with that account. You don't want to deplete those funds that way. But you do have the option of using those funds to add to some of your preps if you can afford it. Just make sure you balance that out and manage that money properly. Anyway, I think that's got it covered right now. I'm going to take my new ammo can labels go inside. I've got a whole bunch of ammo cans I'm going to be sanding down and trying to repaint and refinish and label them up nice and neat. I'm a stickler for having my stuff labeled nice and neat. But anyway, I just wanted to go over some of these. That's what I've added to my medical preps in the past week. Keep on prepping. Keep adding as you can. Don't go into debt to do it, but add as you can. Keep building up. A lot of people say that you're out of time, time's up, you don't have time to prep anymore. I kind of disagree. There is a sense of urgency right now with everything that's going on. I do think time is limited, but my my view on it is, as long as you have access to these items, as long as you're able to earn the money and buy this stuff, you need to be adding to your supplies. Yeah, you might pay a little bit more now than you did 6, 7, 8, 12 months ago. But just because something gets a little bit more expensive, it gets a little bit harder to find, doesn't mean you quit adding to your supply. Because we don't know what the future holds in store for us. It might be that we have to start depending more on ourselves for medical care. And it's really important you be able to manage that. It's also important you have at least some understanding of basic first aid. So I would highly advise, if you don't have any kind of training, get a CPR first aid class. Take some of these classes available from some of these professionals that teach wilderness first aid, combat lifesaver, things like that. The training is well worth the money and could save your life one day. You never know. Anyway, I've got some other things I need to get started on. I'll try to get another video out soon. I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate you being patient with me. I know I've been out of action for like 6 months. I'm trying to get some more videos out there to you now that I have some more time off. My overtime is starting to wind down a little bit now, but I'll try to get some more out as soon as I can. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your patience. Like this video, share it if you like it, if you got some value out of it, and stay tuned. I'll have some more coming to you. You guys take care. Catch you later.